This is part 2 of our ulcer series, and on the first part we talked about the 2 different kinds of ulcers, gastric and colonic, and the symptoms seen with them, how to treat, how to diagnose, and a little bit on prevention. And I wanted to address a little more on prevention today. So we talked about the gastric ulcers forming in the stomach, and the top portion of the stomach being less protected than the bottom portion. The bottom portion has the glandular lining with the hydrochloric acid being released out of the gland and other enzymes being released out of other glands. And that glandular material is protective. And the upper portion, which is squamous cell lining, does not have that protection, and so it's very vulnerable to the hydrochloric acid. And that is where we have the origin of our ulcer problem. So, and then when the food is, let me back up a minute. So when we have the gastric ulcers and we are treating with, say, Gastrogard or Ulcergard or one of the proton pump inhibitors, we turn off that acid production. And then the food is passed into the cecum, colon, and large intestine undigested. And we can run into problems with bacteria, lactic acid release, bacteria die-off, endotoxins being released into the bloodstream, and hind-end acidosis. So all really problematic things from the gastric ulcers and from the treatment. So a couple things that you can do to prevent and to work on prevention. One is to keep your horse chewing as much as possible. So the saliva that the horse produces while chewing hay or whatever the case may be is alkaline, and it's going to buffer that hydrochloric acid in the stomach. So as much as you can be having, whether it's forage or even a little bit of straw or something where the horse can be chewing a lot, a feed that requires some chewing, you're going to be able to increase the saliva and increase the buffering action that goes into the stomach. So that's one way we can work to prevent. There's also some products that you can give your horse that can help. There's no scientific studies that I'm aware of that have proven these methods work. However, anecdotally, I know that they can help. Now, these are not cures, but they're good for prevention. And that would be using bentonite clay or something like Dynamite's Miracle Clay, which we have. Otherwise, another brand of bentonite clay. And giving the horse some clay a couple times a day when it's got an empty stomach is a way that you can actually attack the ulcers a little bit, and you can also aid in prevention. And another product is aloe vera. And aloe vera juice or gel is soothing for that mucosal lining, and it can help with prevention but not curing ulcers. So now the downside to aloe vera is that if you're feeding too much of it or for too long a period of time, it can have negative side effects. So if you're going to feed it, I recommend feeding maybe a third of a cup, and again, not going real long term. Save it for a stressful time. If your horse is going to be stalled for any longer than usual, or if he's going to be without a buddy, or if he lost his buddy, or going to a show, going on the road, going for a long trailer ride, all of those things would be good reasons to maybe start giving some aloe vera juice a few weeks ahead of time. And then also having your clay on hand. So those are some ways that you can avoid or hopefully avoid having the ulcers develop in the first place. My Sirocco is acting kind of goofy here. Oh, what you doing, bud? Looks like he's gonna have to lay down. This is my almost 25-year-old. Well, I'm gonna let him do what he wants. So another thing that we can do, and that we should really be doing, is making sure that we have good control of our parasite load in our horses. There's no such thing as having a horse that's parasite free. However, we can work to kind of keep the load down where it's very manageable for them. And One of the biggest causes of ulcers with regard to parasites are bots. And if you remember, I talked about the upper portion of the stomach being unprotected and the bottom portion having the glands. And then there's that dividing line between the two portions. And bots will tend to congregate on that line. And they will erode that lining. And so you can have ulcers develop from bots. So you really want to maintain good parasite control. I don't recommend just using herbal products. Herbal products are great for, again, trying to maybe help. But I believe that especially in areas where you've got heavy tape infestation or heavy tape populations, to use chemical wormers at least maybe only twice a year. That's what I do here. I have checked fecals. I keep up on my parasites pretty well here. And I do use Equimax generally in the fall and the spring. I have done that for a couple years, and I'm going to be switching to another chemical wormer, another class of wormers next spring. But I'm going to be using Equimax in the fall again. And I do like using Equimax. I feel it's one of the safer dewormers. I won't touch Quest, and I don't like, I'm not a fan of Zymectrin Gold, but Equimax has worked well. So if you want to use the no chemical wormers and you're only going to do herbal, then make sure you are getting your fecals checked on a very regular basis, because I've had friends who have lost horses to parasites that were on just herbal programs, and it's a horrible way for the horse to go. So I think that parasite control is something that we really need to maintain and stay up on. And it's also going to help reduce the ulcers. So I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either Dr. Angela or myself, and we will be able to help you. All right, take care and have a great day.